very interesting because what I found is on average for somebody who's 170 pounds, and this is about an average, so again, it's not a very specific exact on model, but this really gives you an overall idea of what's happening here. So for the average person who weighs 170 pounds, let's say 170 pound person, it would take them to burn 1 pound of fat. It would take them somewhere between 7 to 9 hours of doing cardio at a 6 mile an hour pace. Now, if you're a runner, you know, a 6 mile an hour pace, if you put that up on a treadmill and you try and do that, I mean, if you're a runner and in good running shape, you know, marathoners and people like that can probably do this stuff. They're used to it. But for the average person trying to lose fat, running at 6 miles an hour for an hour, that's not easy. That's pretty hard work. And, you know, most people are going to have a real tough time doing that, let alone trying to do that. Remember, it's 7 to 9 hours to burn 1 pound of fat. So if you've got 10 pounds of fat to lose and you multiply that by, you know, an 8-hour average, you're talking about 80 hours of cardio at a 6 mile an hour pace to lose, you know, 10 pounds of fat. So when you're looking at the energy investment and the time investment compared to the return on your investment, it's, you know, heavily outweighs it, right? You're not getting a whole lot of return for the amount of time and effort that you're putting in. And so, you know, for people who are lighter in body weight, it takes even longer to burn that 1 pound of body fat. And if you're thinking, you know, the opposite probably holds true then, because if you're heavier, you're going to burn, you know, more calories and expend more energy. Well, yes, that holds true. But the problem is that for most people, the heavier you get, the harder it is to move a heavier body at the same intensity for the same length of time compared to a lighter body in most cases. So, you know, basically, long story short, the heavier you are, the harder it's going to be for you to maintain that length of time, that frequency. So it's going to be harder for a heavier person to ever get there. So it kind of, you know, offsets it anyways. So, you know, what we're looking at then, if this is what's going on, there's not a whole lot of payoff from doing all this cardio. Plus, the other thing that's happening behind the scenes is that if you notice, cardiovascular exercise is most effective in the early phases. Like for people who are new to exercise or coming back from a long layoff where you're not accustomed to it. So what happens is when you're doing this, cardio is very repetitive. It is, you know, the same movement pattern done over and over in the same way all the time. So you're not effectively moving yourself differently unless you're doing multiple different forms of cardio, right? But for most people, we tend to be creatures of habit. You know, we like to do kind of the same thing. And when we do that, our bodies adapt to it. They adapt to the level of intensity. They adapt to the same movement. And as your body starts to adapt, our bodies are incredible machines. They adapt by becoming more efficient. So while that might sound like a good thing, well, from an energy expenditure standpoint, it's not, because what your body learns to do is get more efficient at performing the movement so it could expend less energy. That's why over time, when you're doing the same workout over and over and over time, you're not getting the same results. Your body's adapting to it. So that leads to the next problem of we have to change then the variables